Hi, I'm Johnny Nelson, and this is State of the Week. I have the pleasure of sitting alongside Joe Gallagher, trainer, maker of men, maker of champions as well. Welcome.
Yeah, hi Johnny, thanks for having me.
Trainer of the year 2015. Usually on things like this we talk about the fights, upcoming events. I think today's going to be one of those occasions where we talk about you. You're good at talking about other fights. We're going to talk about you and where it all began. I've known you through my boxing career.
Yeah.
When did yours start?
Coaching wise, 93 as an amateur coach at Moss Side with Phil Martin, Champs Camp. Phil was doing the pros, and that's where we began to start lock horns them years ago with Frank Grant and Harold Graham and them fights. And then as a professional trainer then in 2001, been a professional trainer now since 2001.
Yeah, there used to be that rivalry between Sheffield and Manchester with the champions that were coming through. You were kind of Phil's understudy.
Yeah.
But before then, what was your experience? Did you actually box yourself?
Yeah, boxed amateur from the age of 11, Wythenshawe Forum ABC, from Benchill. That's where I was from, brought up, boxing that club. Then 16, 17, went and joined Moss Side ABC. It was thriving. It was a gym that was doing well. Phil done a great job building it up from the riots there in the early 80s. And as you say, his legacy stands today. Obviously, we were 4 British champions at once in the gymnasium. And when you're somebody coming through and you're in that environment and you're watching and you're learning every day, it's just like a sponge. And yeah, and that was it. And it got to a point, he said to me, right, do you want to coach my amateur team for me? So I said, yeah, and I was proud to go out and be the amateur coach for Moss Side ABC. They used to have the gold jackets, the gold shorts when they boxed. And then, yeah, that was it then. And unfortunately, Phil passed away in 94. And as you know, Johnny, when you're with someone close, as you were with Brendan, as I was with Phil, it hit you very hard, but you want to still carry on and keep the legacy going, keep the name alive. And I thought to myself, right, I want to become professional. I've done everything I had as an amateur coach, took kids to the Olympics, World Championships. Thought I want to test myself against the best in the world as a professional now. And not saying it was here, and Brendan England in this country as the person I viewed was the one that was the best and what he had achieved. And I remember asking you numerous times, Johnny, over the years, what did Brendan win again?
Yeah,
and you used to ring off 4 world, I think it was 7 or 9 European, 16, 17 British, and I thought to himself, right, that's what I'll be. And that still is the goal today, to still try and get up there to them heights.
Your story kind of reminds me of, say, Freddie Roach. He was the understudy of Eddie Futch, and that's where he learnt his trade. Now he's a trainer of his own right. That's what you've done as well. And in our sport, unfortunately, you don't get the credit until it's way gone. Brendan used to say to me that a good trainer is a trainer that can produce someone from scratch, and not just produce one champion. Produce 3, 4, 5 champions at different levels. That's what you're doing. That's what you're emulating. That's what you're creating. Inside the gym, it's healthy competition. You've created a sort of a family affair. Was that your main mindset, or was it that having the relationship with the fighters that you have?
I think through what you came through and the tutoring at Moss Side, and seeing that that was very a team environment at the time. Like I said to you, you had Maurice Core, Carl Thompson, Frank Grant, Paul Burke, Mario Culpepper, and they were all pushing each other on runs, pushing each other in training on the bag. And boxing's a lonely sport, Johnny. I don't know how fighters do it who go in on their own one-on-one. I do feel it's hard, and if you go to work and you enjoy the environment, and it becomes when there's business to be done, to do that. And I've tried to carry that with my amateur teams and also with my professional teams as well. And it needs the right personalities. Now Dominic, he's stable, is growing now, and it's a learning curve for him because he's used to having 3 or 4 good fighters, but all of a sudden now he's got 7 or 8 good fighters, and it's making sure you bring the right personalities in, because it only needs the wrong one to upset the apple cart or become problematic. And you came through it yourself, Johnny, in that environment with Ryan and with Prince Nazim Hamid, so Ryan Rhodes and all them kids. I mean, so it does work. The days when you're not feeling it, Ryan will pull you through. The day Ryan wouldn't, Naz will pull him through, and that's what you try and create, and you win together and you lose together.
Who's the easiest for you to work with, to gel with your fighters that you've got in the gym?
Oh, to gel with, I think they've all been. I think the couple of additions that I brought on of late, of Paul Butler and other kids, I've always done sort of like a month trial, because after a month's time, I get to know more about them, they get to know about me. After a month, they might think this is rubbish, I might think we can't work together, instead of jumping in at the dive end. So we do that, and then we usually have an idea, but there's a very strong work ethic, and there's no one charges. Everyone just comes in, does the job, and go home and does it. But these ones, they all are. I can't pick anyone as saying they're problematic or they're not. They all come in. Jose Burton I've had since the age of 11, extra junior, age 32. Anthony Crolla, been with 10 years now, known him as an amateur. He was on the opposite corner to me as an amateur kid, actually. So no one really that got involved with him.
What do you think makes a great trainer?
I think having big ears, a small mouth and big ears. I think listening, it's well documented over the times. I remember Emmanuel Stewart coming to Manchester once with Tommy Earns when he fought on Naz's bill at the arena, and everyone came to Billy Graham's gym that day to see Naz and Tommy Earns. And I went over to Emmanuel Stewart, and as much as it was great to see Tommy Earns, but I went over and spoke to Emmanuel Stewart, and I said, I'd like to pick your brains, and in your training, is it technique, is it conditioning, what do you do, are you a big believer in lots around sparring? And then 3 to 5 minutes that I had with him, I made the most of, and I've done that and all the time. When I went to Jeff Lacey, who was fighting Robin Reed, I went and spoke to Dan Birmingham, we've been out to the Wildcard. I'm always sitting, watching, learning, and you can never stop learning. This sport's always evolving, and you can't be set in your routines, you've got to keep tweaking.
Have you found that there's not many true trainers left? So you'll get a lot of guys that go to college, go to university, come out with a degree in sports science or whatever. It doesn't make you a good trainer.
No, it's very hard. I know what people say now, there isn't many teachers is what people are saying in the sport no more. And what happened now, because of the success of white collar boxing, how it's booming, and I call them your total fitness trainers. They go on a PADS course for the clients one-on-one. Next thing, they're involved in a white collar event. Then next thing, they're before the board getting a coach's licence, and they're on the circuit. But some of what goes on, I see in corners sometimes, I'd be worried with some of the fighters. But no, I don't think there is. But the UK at the moment has unbelievable trainers, and you can tell by the way that we perform on the world stage. Adam Booth, Dominic Ingle, I mean, really, really good fighters.
You're one of the few trainers in the UK that's actually doesn't just concentrate on training the body. It's about training the mind, the ethic, and that's one thing I think is the massive gap between the young ones coming through. They've got to understand, have the experience to get the wisdom to be able to pass that on to the fighters. You're one of those few trainers that do that. Is that from visiting gyms around the world, speaking to coaches and?
Yeah, visiting gyms, and it's like a stuck record referring back to coming through the Phil Martin, how he was, and psychological warfare, knowing when to pick your fights, when to upset opponents. And listen, Brendan, I used to be watching the boxing at home, and I used to think, I wish he'd absolutely shut up. I can hear him through the TV monitor. So I thought, and being in the sport now and as a coach, think, God, being an opposition coach, boxer, listening to that, you'd want to stop and say, will you be quiet a minute, I'm trying to win the fight. And just things like that, just little things, and it's only experience that gets you that, and going through and being in around and learning and picking up off things off the best out there.
2019 set to be a massive year for you, a busy year for you. What have you got to look forward to? What's the one that stands out to you, the biggest challenge?
Listen, I've called them my famous five for this year. The five guns that I'll be pushing for world titles this year. Paul Butler, what a world title challenge. Anthony Crolla, I think that's possibly the biggest challenge. Lomachenko, that's huge. Liam Smith, I think the signing by Matchroom is the signing of the transfer window in January. I think it's great business. I think Liam Smith's one of the best fighters we have in this country. Callum Smith, obviously, is the #1 in the world. We're looking at unifications with Ramirez or Caleb Plant, who won at the weekend, and then Callum Johnson to go again, obviously a world title shot. So they're the five that will be pushing on the world stage, and on the back of it then we've got Jose Burton, Natasha Jonas coming through, Sam Hyde, who was unfortunate with the eye injury there just before Christmas. So a busy stable, and maybe 1 or 2 more additions during the year.
Yeah, well, you've got a lot to forward to, and you've got a great gym. What other gyms would you look out for that's thriving, that's coming through?
I think young coaches coming through. I think Michael Jennings is doing very well, him and his brother, the Jennings brothers.
Yeah.
I know they're unlucky with Matty Askin, but they're thriving, a good thing. I've always been a fan of Gary Lockett. He's a good coach. Obviously, I don't need to give Dominic Ingle much praise. He's doing great as he is. But there is good coaches out there that are doing well and coming through. Haroon Headley in Manchester. Just trying to think of it off the top of my head.
When do you live? Because it's like you eat, breathe, sleep boxing. Yeah. You know it inside out. Your friends, your social circle, everything. Yeah. It's just boxing.
It's funny. I was watching the Harry Redknapp Jungle thing and seeing an interview him the other day, and his missus was saying it was absolutely awful when he'd come home and lose. And I looked at the missus like, say, and it is, and she could replicate with that because it is, because you live and you breathe it, and people say that's my happy place. Going to work on a Monday, that's my happy place, and you're in the gym. It isn't work, and there's a few people, say Anthony Crolla, for example. We've had a great relationship, Anthony. I've known him since the age of 12. This mushroom could do his last year in boxing. And it saddens me to think, wow, I've been gone to work with him for the last 10 years. He might be leaving work soon. And them type of friendships and the bond that we have in the stable, I want to, in 10 years' time, be able to have a barbecue, what we always do, and invite everyone around. A lot of popular stables during the years, there's always been a falling out here or falling out there. I'm trying not to do that we all can be friends, lifelong friends for 10, 20, 30 years, forever and a day. Do you understand? That's what I want to do.
Just a quick one. Manchester stroke Bolton boy Amir Khan announced he's fighting Terence Crawford. What's your look at? What's your view on that fight?
I think it was the right move for Amir. Obviously, there's huge talk with Kell Brook. The shame with it, Johnny, is I think that boat's passed now. I think we were there with Ricky Jr. There was lots of pressure on him to fight Junior Witter. Ricky went and fought Floyd Mayweather. I think Amir here as well, now Kell Brook. That fight, as a pay-per-view fight, as Hardy said, that ship's passed now. Amir's got to go and fight Terence Crawford for a world title. And that's what you're in the sport, to become a world champion. Kell didn't have a world title. For Kell now, he's highly ranked in all the governing bodies. Must we get an opportunity to fight in Jared Hurd? That'd be a good fight from another opportunity. So I think both of them aren't fighting each other, but they're both going to fight for world titles. Amir, he's got a huge task, but he's a very live fighter in that, Amir. He's a very live fighter. He's going back to Virgil, a very strict discipline, and Amir's had some good performances with Virgil Hunter, and I'm glad he's gone back to him for this fight, but it's a tough fight. Kell, listen, I don't think Kell needs to be too upset. He's highly ranked, and he'll be mandatory for a world title shot, I'm sure, by the summertime.
Joe, good luck 2019.
Cheers, thank you, Johnny. Thanks for having me on.
This has been State of the Week.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.